Is secularism secure? A growing concern in our society today. We have Professor Sebastian Vadapalli from Jnanadeepa Institute of Philosophy and Theology, Pune, who will share his ideas and views on this prevailing issue.
Welcome, dear Father, and it's a privilege to have you here with us on this topic, Is Secularism Secure? I would ask you some questions and to have your views upon it. The first question would be, what is the meaning of secularism and when was it first introduced in the Indian Constitution?
Thank you very much. Now, as many people know, the word secularism was not there in the original Constitution, in the preamble. It was inserted in 1976 through the 42nd Amendment. So now we can ask a question, what is the meaning of secularism? In Indian context, secularism means two things. Two important principles are there. First is, the state keeps equal distance from all religions. That's the first aspect, very important aspect. Second one, state does not show partiality to any religion. So these are two important principles of Indian secularism. There are lots of debates about this, the meaning of secularism, among the political theorists, among politicians. So this is the basic meaning of Indian secularism. Okay.
So the second question would be, what are the different notions of secularism?
Okay, there are different ideas about secularism. Broadly, we can speak about two streams of secularism. The first one is coming from the European stream, tradition. Already in the 5th century, that is after the collapse of the Roman Empire, Pope Gelasius, he brought in the idea of diarchy principle. It means this: God is the ultimate source of all power, but then God has given the temporal power to the state and the spiritual power to the church. So there are two types of powers, secular and spiritual. So this is a kind of religion and state. The idea of separation comes, but the complete separation between the state and religion comes with the French Revolution, and especially the idea of laicite. French word it is, French idea of secularism. It means that religion has no role to play in politics. Again, we must keep in mind the fact that all these divisions separation between state and the church, state and religion, comes from a prior division in the Western thinking. That is the division between public domain and private domain. In this kind of understanding, religion belongs to the private domain and public domain is constituted by politics, where all people participate. So this is the Western idea. And in India, most of these ideas, what we find about secularism, actually is coming from the Western tradition. Many of the ideas coming from Western tradition, especially the famous case 1994, Mr. Bombay versus the Union of India. There, the judges stated that religion and state, there's a separation, and it is already in the Constitution, we must respect it, etc. So basically, Indian idea of secularism, in many ways, is a derivative of European idea of secularism. Though there is tolerance towards all religion in Ashoka's edict 2,200 years ago, it is, all these things are there, but the modern idea of secularism is quite different.
Thank you, Father. what are the changes you perceive from the past to the present now?
So when we talk about the changes in the idea of secularism, there are many changes that have taken place. In the Indian Constitution, when we began in 1951, with this Republic, Declaration of India as a Republic, there was some sort of separation between state and religion, but it is not absolutely clear. One example would be that incident which took place in 1951. So there was a famous incident of this reconstruction of Somnath Temple in Gujarat. It was initiated by Sardar Patel, K.M. Munshi, all Congress leaders. It is a famous pilgrim place, important place for Hindus. So it was reconstructed, and in 1951, they called the President of India, Rajendra Prasad, to inaugurate this temple. So Nehru, who had a secular outlook, he objected to this. But all the same, Rajendra Prasad went to inaugurate this temple. So already this kind of non-clarity or non-separation between state and religion already was existing right from the beginning of the Republic. So there are a lot of changes now that is taking place, especially now. And we can think about those changes in terms of the majoritarian attitude, the new dispensation that has come to power. So in this majoritarian outlook, India belongs to the majoritarian religion. Others are here as guests. So this is the basic ideology of the majoritarian party, majoritarian state, etc. So this is a very, very important change that has taken place. Okay, in as far as secularism is concerned, the idea of secularism has undergone tremendous changes.
So what would you see as the threats to secularism?
Yeah, there are many threats, and especially in a country like India, where there are lots of religious traditions are there. The idea of secularism becomes all the more important if we want to live with peace and harmony with each other. One of the ways we can achieve that is through adhering to the principle of secularism. But 2-3 years ago, for the first time in Indian history, 4 sitting judges, senior most judges of the Supreme Court, called for a conference, press conference, and there they declared that Indian Constitution is under threat, Indian democracy is under threat. The same concern was expressed by Archbishop Anil Kutto, and also similar concern was expressed by Archbishop Neri of Goa. So all of them are expressing certain concerns in the light of the tremendous changes that is taking place in Indian political scenario. Now, what is important that we must keep in mind as we study philosophy and theology is that how do we maintain plurality? That's the greatest challenge, actually. Secularism is a means to achieve a plural way of coexisting with one another. We need to have an idea of multiculturalism, which is not discussed at all in Indian context, whether in the academics or among politicians. So here the multiculturalism means it doesn't mean that mere coexistence of different religions, different traditions, different cultures, but the state ensures the rights of the minorities and especially various traditions. So that is actually the meaning of multiculturalism. It's not just merely the existence of different cultures and religious traditions. So state has to ensure through legal means the rights of these groups. This sort of multiculturalism exists in places like Canada and in Australia. Unfortunately, we don't see much discussions about this in India because secularism doesn't stand in isolation. It requires an understanding about what does it mean to live together. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Father, for it was a privilege of you sharing your ideas with us. Thank you, Father.